Scripture reading for today is from Isaiah 9, 2, and 6 through 7. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Those who lived in a land of deep darkness, on them light has shined. For a child has been born for us, a son given to us. Authority rests upon his shoulders. He is named Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. His authority shall grow continually, and there shall be endless peace for the throne of David and his kingdom. He will establish and uphold it with justice and with righteousness from this time onward and forevermore.
To the meek, and to those that mourn. A Savior has been born, and God is with us. Who could ever believe this? And now, the buyers and sellers, the devoted and the gospel, the uncertain and the faithful will come. They embrace the emotion of fear with faith, and bow humbly before Him, Jesus the Savior. Oh, believe it. He came longing, searching, reaching for you.
His love went on longing, and His love went on reaching. Of my mind.
And if you like that, that's just a small sampling of the talent that our choir and our music staff have. And we would invite you to join us at 6:30 tonight at Crown Heights United Methodist Church in Oklahoma City as we can combine our choir with the choir from New Covenant Christian Church in Oklahoma City for a combined Christmas cantata, to perform the cantata that we will be sharing here in this congregation. But we invite you to come join us for that. It should be a great time for all. Also, we'll remind you that on December 15th, which is our Cantata Sunday, we will have one service, and that service will be at 10 o'clock in the morning. So if you're on your regular schedule that week, you should get in time just to join the choir and sing the cantata, right? Is that how that works? Very good. It's so good to see each and every one here. Will you join me in prayer? Gracious God, we give you thanks for this day. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Would you say that hope is what we are called to do? We are supposed to be a people of hope. Aren't we? The ingrained DNA that we have as Christians calls us to be a people of hope. Because life is better with hope. Would you agree? Would you agree to that? Life is better when you have hope? People who need hope, and just more hope than getting that $150 500-inch television that they had 3 of in the store and you have to wait for. It's different than that. Hope is different than that. There are people who camped out for weeks to get in line for that special buy that they saw for the Black Friday specials that were on. Camping out for that amount of time, can you imagine what you could do with that kind of time? But people do that kind of thing. The hope that we're called to do is a little bit more than hoping that you get one of the 3 TVs that they have at that really, really discount price at the store. It seems that when life seems to be most dismal, we react differently when we get and have a glimmer of hope. Have you ever experienced those times in your life that have just been dismal times? You didn't know what was coming around the corner at you, but you had something inside of you that told you to hang on for just a little bit. Have hope. It makes our lives different. And hope is something that we all need. A small business owner in a strip mall was dismayed when a brand new corporate chain, much like the same business that he had, moved into the building or the slot right next to him in the strip mall. And that business put up a big, big sign that said, "Best Black Friday Deals" on it. You can imagine how tense that might be, going up against a national chain. But the big thing about that was he got really nervous when another national commercial chain opened up next door on the other side to him. And it was basically the same business that he had. So he was really panicking, but he got this idea when the other one put up the sign that says, "Lowest Black Friday prices." He got an idea after that. And so he put his hope into action. And he put a sign over his shop right in the middle of the 2 that said, "Main Entrance." Oh, sometimes we have to act to create hope in our lives. Isaiah 9:2-7 reminds us that people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Those who lived in the land of deep darkness, on them a light has shined. It reignites hope when you hear those kind of words. And Advent, as Pat told us, is about waiting. Advent is about anticipation. And we do it all over again. Wasn't it just last year that we, in different places, lit a candle of hope on this, the first Sunday in Advent? It's a part of who we are. We turn in the scriptures to the prophet Isaiah, who spoke to the people without hope. Isaiah was giving us a glimpse of what having hope might be. And the northern kingdom had been decimated, and its best and brightest people had been taken away to Babylon in 722 BCE. These passages address the despair of the people who had been taken away, who had been there for quite a while, and were coming back to their homeland and to their homes in Jerusalem and other places that had been destroyed. Their country was in tatters. They had been destroyed. And you can imagine somebody coming back to something like that would be without hope sometimes. Ever have anybody affected by a tornado that takes away a house? You can kind of feel this desperation and a lack of hope. But then there's something about us that calls us to be a people of hope, no matter what goes on in our lives. Their country, those people back in those days, their country was destroyed and they were in tatters. And the people looked for one who would come and save them. And Isaiah gives them words of hope and received a fulfillment of the promise that out of David's line, there would be a kingdom that would have no end. Things are going to be better, and they're going to be more fuller than they were before we left. And they hear these words. The people who have walked in darkness have seen a great light. Those who have lived in a land of deep darkness, on them a light has shined. The people have been taken away, and all that they had been holding sacred had been taken away from them as well. And yet they found hope. Psalm 112 reminds us, praise the Lord. Happy are those who fear the Lord, who greatly delight in his commandments. Their descendants will be mighty in the land. The generation of the upright will be blessed. Wealth and riches are in their houses, and their righteousness endures forever. They rise in the darkness as a light for the upright. They are gracious, merciful, and righteous. It is well with those who deal generously and lend, who conduct their affairs with justice. For the righteous will never be moved. They will be remembered forever. They are not afraid of evil tidings. Their hearts are firm, secure in the Lord. Their hearts are steady. They will not be afraid. And in the end, they will look on in triumph on their foes. They have distributed freely, for they have given to the poor. Their righteousness endures forever. Their horn is exalted in honor. The wicked see it and are angry. They gnash their teeth and melt away. The desire of the wicked comes to nothing. What a great world when the desire of the wicked comes to nothing. It just melts away. That's what the hope Isaiah is bringing to them and to us this day. A connection that had the capacity to reignite hope in people's lives. They were waiting for this Messiah, the leader who would lead them out of the darkness. But while they were waiting, God was present. And those who lived into God's presence and still live into God's presence are blessed with hope. And they are called to live lives that are pleasing to God. And they receive hope. Receive hope. Because people need hope. For the people in his day and our day have seen a great light, or what is available for them to see. The light, one candle will distribute, can be seen by the human eye for miles if the conditions are right. We kind of have a little bit of distortion from all of the other lights in here, but if it was completely dark, think about this. What would that candle, that Advent candle of hope, look like if it was completely dark in here? And if we'd have thought about it, we'd have turned all the lights out. We didn't think about it. For the people have seen a great light. The less distractions that are around, the more that you will be able to see. One candle burning in the distance brings hope if that's all that you can see. Have you ever been in a place where it's so dark you can't see in front of you? But there's been that one light out there that shines where you have an idea of where you might go. Harbor lights, they do that. They give you safety. They help you to keep from running into the rocks that are around them. For the people have seen a great light. And we learn if we live lives that are pleasing to God, then perhaps our lives are more hopeful. Out of despair, hope has the possibility to reignite each and every one of us, doesn't it? We look in this time of year for stories of hope. We turn to the Christmas stories of the Gospels of Matthew and Luke to reaffirm hope inside us. We turn the channels of our TV to those feel-good movies that we love. We dig into our past. Once again, Charlie Brown and the gang will turn that little stick into a Christmas tree, won't they? We know that. For me, it's Muppet Christmas Carol. I love Muppet Christmas Carol. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. An adaptation of Charles Dickens' classic. Scrooge will be Scrooge, but eventually hope will win out. We saw it in the theater back when our daughter Amy was just a little kid. You know, it's really great to have kids so that you can go to these movies and really justify it. You know, still keep your man card and all that stuff. But it was great. We went to this movie, saw Muppet Christmas Carol, and fell in love with that story and the way it was told. Michael Caine is actually Scrooge. If you haven't seen that, you should see it. And if you have grandkids or kids, take them or bring them with you to watch it as well. Old Scrooge has seen a great light, and the darkness shall not overcome even him. Deep, deep darkness. Some say when you're experiencing darkness in your life, you should pray to God to free you from it. If you are still in the darkness, pay your electric bill. But hope punches holes in the darkness of our world, doesn't it? In 1962, a missionary couple named Don and Carol Richardson journeyed into the wilds of New Guinea and to become the first Christian missionaries to a primitive people called the Sawis. Living in complete isolation from the rest of the world, the Sawi people were headhunters and cannibals. So they learned the language and they built trust with the Sawi people. You can imagine with that kind of environment, you'd want to build some trust with these people. But after 14 civil wars between factions within the Sawi people, they felt that they had failed, that they had no hope of anything getting better, and they announced that they were leaving. The Sawi people pleaded for them not to go, and they promised to make peace the next day. As morning dawned, the two rival clans, men still brandishing spears on each side of the clearing in the forests, they were there. Women and children paced anxiously behind them, as you could imagine. Finally, one man dashed into his hut when his wife wasn't looking, and he emerged holding their newborn baby and ran across with him across the meadow to the other side. His wife followed along, you can imagine, wailing and pleading with him not to do this thing. Plead the peace child for me, he said. Plead the peace child for me, said the man to the leaders of his enemies. I give you my son, and I give you my name. Moments later, someone from the other clan did exactly the same thing, bringing another baby forward and proclaiming the same thing. The Richardsons learned that as long as those two peace children remained alive, the two clans had made a pact and had bound themselves to each other to live in peace. The mutual adoption was a solemn covenant of their peace. This gave Don Richardson the example that he needed to share the good news. He climbed the ladder of the Sawi man house, and surrounded by gruesome shrunken heads and all of those things, he told the warriors of the perfect peace child given by God to the whole human race. Several became Christians that day, and as did many more in the days that would come. Eventually, hundreds of Psalms gathered for a Christmas feast, at which at the time one of the men read in his own language the words of Isaiah. For a child has been born for us, a son that is given to us. For if we live in hope, it changes us. If we live in hope, it changes us. And we, as those who were in Isaiah's office did as well, we wait and we anticipate. Changing who we are punches holes in the darkness of our lives. Isaiah's hearers would wait for centuries and then millennia. For us, we've waited 1 year, and I can deal with that. Can you? We've waited 1 year. So come hope, come anticipation, come light that punches holes in the darkness of our world and in the darkness of our despair. Come, Holy One, once again to proclaim your good news to the world, because the people that are walking in darkness need to see and feel your great light. Amen.
Prosperity is given to the greater community of believers so that all